What we're looking at here is one of the most dangerous jobs in the British Army. Members of the elite Parachute Regiment, the Paras, leaping from an A400M Atlas for a low-altitude drop into hostile territory. They are attempting a manoeuvre the British military has never tried before: the rapid deployment of a HIMARS rocket launcher alongside NATO allied forces. To find out what it takes to operate at the tip of NATO's spear, I'm embedding with the Paras to take part in Exercise Swift Response, a massive set of war games on the Swedish island of Gotland. We'll go with them into the fight as they take on a much larger enemy force. And if they succeed, we'll see how the Paras help NATO to unleash one of its most devastating weapons.
They are absolutely everywhere, behind every tree and in every bush.
The Paras' task is to help carry out a high-mobility artillery rocket system rapid infiltration, known in military jargon as high rain. This tactic combines mobility, firepower, and the element of surprise in a way that traditional artillery or rocket launch systems simply can't. Here's the plan. The Paras will lift off from Royal Air Force Base Brize Norton aboard a pair of the RAF's premier military cargo aircraft, the Airbus A400M Atlas. With 4 TP400 D6 turboprop engines putting out a combined 44,000 horsepower, each A400 can haul 37 tons of troops and equipment with ease. Carrying more than 100 Paras in full kit, the A400s will soar over Europe at 40,000 feet before descending rapidly to avoid detection as they approach hostile territory. Here, the Paras will make a low-altitude drop, landing well away from their target to maintain the element of surprise. The distance between the first and last Para to exit the aircraft is roughly a kilometre, so once they hit the ground, they'll have to hustle to meet up at a rally point. Once they've regrouped, they will hike, or tab, 5 kilometres to their objective and wait for nightfall. This objective could be an airport, an airstrip, a large road, or even a field, anything large enough to land a military cargo plane. This is referred to as a Tactical Landing Zone, or TLZ. In this case, the TLZ is a civilian road cutting through a dense wood, and it's guarded by a Swedish conscript army. These are not elite troops, but the Swedes know this territory like the back of their hand. They also have reinforcements, including a contingent of up to 60 Special Forces soldiers on standby just a few kilometers away. Under cover of darkness, the Paras will launch a lightning assault to overwhelm their much larger enemy and seize the TLZ. Then, they will have to hold off several waves of counterattacks, including from enemy special forces, to protect it. If, and only if, the Paras can successfully seize the TLZ and manage to defeat all the incoming threats, it's time for NATO allies to swoop in. A US Marine Corps C-130 Hercules aircraft, travelling in from a third country, will land and immediately roll out the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, HIMARS. Then, the stage is set to launch the rockets and demolish the target. If you want to learn more about how HIMARS works in more detail, check out this episode of War on Tape linked above. With the rockets deployed, the HIMARS, its marine operators, and the Paras all climb back aboard the C-130 and fly off to safety. The idea is brutally simple. Instead of parking the rocket system on a fixed base, where it's vulnerable to drones, missiles, or enemy artillery, HIMARS can be flown into the theatre of operations, unleash a devastating strike, and then disappear again before the enemy even has time to respond. This enables NATO forces to strike high-value targets without relying on forward-deployed bases or exposing themselves to counterattacks. It also creates an element of uncertainty and unpredictability that is a nightmare for the enemy. But it's a highly complex maneuver, whose success relies entirely on the attacking force's ability to covertly infiltrate hostile territory and punch well above their weight. There's no one better suited to shoulder such a responsibility than the Paras. The Paras are the British Army's only airborne infantry regiment. Their reputation is legendary. First, to get the coveted parachutist badge, or wings, you have to go through a brutal selection process and a relentless training regimen. Then, there's the unit's storied history of parachuting directly into the fight ever since World War II. From the skies over Normandy in 1944 and the Falkland Islands in 1982, to the deserts of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, the Paras have repeatedly deployed for the hardest missions, often ahead of the main force and often outnumbered, but always expected to succeed. Now, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine brought war back to Europe's doorstep, the Paras are refining cutting-edge tactics to ensure the British Army, working with NATO allies, can project force anywhere in the world. The Parachute Regiment's 2nd Battalion, known as 2 Para, very kindly invited me to join them on Exercise Swift Response, hosted by NATO's newest member, Sweden, on Gotland. As one of NATO's biggest training operations, it's a perfect opportunity to see for myself just how vital the Paras are to the alliance. But before the shooting starts, I wanted to get to know some of the soldiers and hear what they had to say about life as a Para.
There's that standard expected from the Parachute Regiment, and I think those that are attached to us understand that. And where we go, we like to enhance reputation as opposed to damage it, so there's always that at the forefront of your mind.
We're the only regiment that can, or the only infantry that can parachute, and we are the UK's, the British Army's high readiness formation. So I'm currently at 48 hours notice to move, which is why exercises like this are so important, because it's really complex, and if you don't practice it, those skills stagnate. So if we're going to potentially need to pull off something like this at 48 hours notice, it's really great to have come and practiced it.
Some of these soldiers, like Commanding Officer Hitchens, have long and storied military careers. Others have barely cracked their 20s. But everyone here has one thing in common.
What does that mean to you to have reached that level and to be a Para and to lead this regiment?
It means a huge amount. It's a long journey. It's been over 20 years. So you sort of start as a young platoon commander. You look up, and it's the job I always wanted. So a real privilege. And to be on that first force projection from the UK in an A400, it's a nice. I'm coming towards the end of my command, so it's quite a nice sort of tick in the box before I move on.
Fantastic, feather in the cap.
Yes.
This year, 2 Para is on standby to deploy anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. But the Paras haven't had an active deployment since Operation Pitting, the effort to rescue British and Afghan nationals from the chaos of Kabul as the Taliban swept back to power in the summer of 2021.
A lot of the lads were on Operation Pitting, so that would have been a big challenge. I'm sure everyone's aware of that. Previous to that, we kind of just been on standby for a long time, waiting for that opportunity. When Pitting came, I was up at the training establishment, making sure that the next generation of recruits were ready to then deploy at 24 hours notice to move.
This is no average training exercise, even for these elite soldiers. It's a full combat simulation designed to emulate jumping into hostile territory on foreign soil while coordinating with allied forces across multiple countries to deploy a prized military asset and extract it in record time. It's also the first time the Paras have ever attempted this specific mission, and their first time conducting a low-altitude drop from an A400M on foreign soil, so anything could happen. The Paras want to get on the ground as quickly as possible so they can get straight into the action. That means the A400 is flying at an altitude of just 1,000 feet, giving the Paras only 40 seconds before they hit the ground with a pretty heavy thud. They can be carrying all manner of equipment, including their regular assault rifles, but also heavy machine guns, mortar weapons, and all manner of radio equipment and communications equipment. As soon as they hit the ground, they want to gather their equipment, fold up the parachutes, and regroup before heading into the action. Even with the parachute, the Paras are in for a hard landing. To minimize the impact, the soldiers operate a pulley system to dangle their heavy kit below them. With the Paras on the ground and ready to move, I caught up with them as they headed for the rally point.
40 seconds from jumping out of the plane to hitting the ground. Can you talk me through the process, what's going through your mind, the things that you need to keep in your head?
So jump out, get tight, so feet and knees together.
Feet and knees together, okay.
And hope the parachute's there, count to 3, then you get about 15 seconds of good fun. Do your drills that you've been taught, and then start worrying about the landing.
Tell me about some of those drills, like what are the drills that you're having to, the processes you're going through?
Parachutist,
okay.
Try and steer away from him, so get as much distance between you all as possible, and then drop the kit, see which way you're going with the wind, try and steer away from that, slow yourself down, hopefully they've not shut you out too quick a wind. And then, yeah, hear your kit hit the floor and go, all right, that's me next.
Here we go.
But no matter the level of preparation, there's really no way to make leaping out of a plane totally safe. So the paras are forced to confront tough odds of injury.
Toes up in your boots, it stops you like breaking your ankle or breaking your feet. It's like that's very common.
Okay.
There's a 1 in 20 chance of serious
A 1 in
injury.
20, right, okay.
Yeah.
I've had some of them where you think you could land and walk it off, and others where you land and then start to check if you're all okay.
Okay.
Once you've done the check, realise you actually can get up and sort your kit out. It's quite a nice feeling.
Now at the rally point, the edge of a wooded area a few kilometres from the TLZ, the boys are performing one last kit check, giving me a chance to get briefed by Corporal Daniels and Lieutenant Colonel Hitchens on what to expect.
Talk to us about the operation we have coming up. So you've made your landing, you've reconstituted, you've regrouped. What are we about to do now?
Yeah, so we've just RV'd here. We've made sure we're good to go for the next 24 hours. Now punch off to tactical landing zone. Idea there, clear through, make sure that is a secure area. We'll then control the area. Anything that comes in, that's because we're allowing it to, and anything we don't want to come in, we'll do our best to interdict.
Taking the TLZ is half the battle. The paras will then have to fend off counterattacks throughout the night.
So there is a small unconventional force, a sort of special forces type detachment in the local area. About an hour away there is a subunit size, so probably about 100 more conventional troops. So the aim here is to get in by surprise. That is what we do. Come in by surprise, seize the tactical landing zone. Clearly it's easier to defend once you've seized it than it is to fight to seize it. So we're ready for, at pretty short notice, some pretty sporadic unconventional resistance, followed an hour later perhaps by a more conventional response. I think if this were for real and we weren't stopping to do interviews and all the rest of it, then we would probably be able to crack that. We'd hit the drop zone and we'd have seized the TLZ within a couple of hours.
But with weight restrictions, the paras can only carry so much kit.
Yeah, so we jumped in with the minimum sort of PPE, obviously helmet, body armour, weapon system then, 6 magazines, smoke and grenades. Additional to that, got 24 hours rations, 3 litres of water. With the weather looking a bit more positive, we've kind of ditched Gore-Tex.
The paras are squared away and the sun is slipping below the horizon. That means it's time to begin the tab to the TLZ. Slowly and quietly, the team begin filtering out from the trees, so we're taking a bit of a detour to the TLZ to make sure a keen sentry doesn't spot us. Major Mark Stone is not taking part in the exercise, but he has kindly offered to come along to keep us fully in the loop.
Yeah, so what they're going to do at the moment, so they're moving off from the RV, which is roughly here, and they're going to move across this ground from the RV to the position basically where they're going to start the clearance of the tactical landing zone. Somewhere in the vicinity they'll stop, move into a final rendezvous and basically get into the formation that they want to use to clear from south to north. You'll have the company commander listening into all of his platoon commanders and section commanders, and all of that voice is getting, it's an all-informed net, we call it, so everyone's talking, everyone can hear each other. So as they're picking up things, as they're seeing different things on the ground, they'll send that back. The company commander, who's probably a third of the way back in the formation, will be making judgments, making decisions on how the progress is going. Does he need to change anything? Do we need to move anyone else anywhere in particular? So,
although all of the paras are highly trained warfighters, each has their very own set of skills that makes them an indispensable part of the unit.
this is 3 platoons.
Okay.
4, 5 and 6 platoon. And then there's some other kind of attachments. So there'll be some medics, there'll be some signallers. We've got guys that fly the drones. There's a couple of drone teams.
Okay.
So the group is the four platoons and then some attachments.
So I'm whispering because we have just reached the rendezvous point before we're going to assault the tactical landing zone. Now the para team have sent a drone up, they've surveyed the area, they have a rough idea of the threats they're going to face. They're now going to split into 2 teams. One will take the western side of the TLZ, the other will take the eastern side, and they will sweep up to engage the enemy.
The paras have good reason for holding position here. It's now almost dark, and in this low light, they almost melt into the surroundings. once the light completely dies away, the conscript army will have no chance of spotting them. This is where another piece of kit comes in handy.
These are binocular image intensifiers.
Okay.
So you've got a helmet mount that will fit on top of your helmet, and that flips down, and that essentially turns the nighttime into daytime. With the ambient light that we've got at the moment, that will give you visibility far beyond you, the naked eye without them, and it really does turn the night to day.
That is unbelievably clear. It really is like daytime in the sense of everything's grayscale, but it's picture perfect, crystal clear imaging. That is really impressive. And you see, when you're looking through the lenses like this, you actually realise just how many paras there are in this field. When you're standing alone, it seems that there are only a few of you, but it turns out they are absolutely everywhere, behind every tree and in every bush, and just completely encircling this point just before the TLZ. It's very impressive.
I'm beginning to think the Swedish army might be in for a difficult night. But if I want to be there to witness it, I need to keep track of the paras. As they began to move out, my lack of night vision goggles quickly became a real problem.
Okay, it's almost 11 p.m. We were standing just close to the TLZ with the para team for maybe 20 minutes, and then the CO gave the order to split the teams and slowly but surely begin making their way up both sides of the TLZ to engage the enemy. Within a matter of seconds, we lost our unit. They move incredibly quickly and incredibly silently, and it just goes to show how effectively they can operate in these conditions.
Thankfully, another member of the paras who was not active on the exercise realised we'd been given the slip and came to find us. We rejoined the unit moments before the assault on the TLZ begins.
So the paratroopers on the eastern side of the TLZ have been engaged. We just heard some gun firing out. You can probably hear it in the distance. We're on the western side of the TLZ with this team, and so far it's still quiet. We have not yet encountered any enemy, but hearing the gunshots ring out, everybody immediately kind of sprung to attention. Everybody immediately was on alert, and they're ready to engage at any moment.
The gunfire echoed through the wood, but as we kept stalking up our side of the TLZ, there was no resistance to be found.
We can hear multiple drones whirring overhead. We can see the light above us right now. I get the impression that although the drones give away your general position, it's much better for you to know exactly where the enemy are, so you can begin to direct your troops and make sure you engage them on your terms.
Suddenly, a firefight erupted much closer to our position. The paras I'm shadowing take a knee to plan their attack.
And then once you're set, let me know, and then we'll push you forwards. We'll either get opened up on, and then that's your chance to deal with it. Right, before we step off, just a reminder, if we come under contact, remember what we spoke about on orders. We've been treating them like conscripts, and remember our job here is to roll them up and send them back. They will withdraw, put pressure in them, and take the fight to them. No f***ing about, simple as.
Not 30 seconds after the platoon leader gave out the order, I find myself right in the middle of a gunfight. The element of surprise, the reconnaissance and surveillance advantage, combined with their ruthless efficiency, mean the paras are making rapid progress. To simulate an engagement as closely as possible, all combatants are using the Miles system, basically an advanced form of laser tag that's the standard for NATO. All the soldiers' uniforms are covered in tiny sensors. Their weapons fire blank rounds, but each press of the trigger also activates a laser. When a sensor registers a hit from a weapon, the soldier is told exactly where they were wounded and how severely. This means both sides can engage in hyper-realistic war with all of the data collected for study in an after-action report. Corporal Aaron Stone, the soldier who came to find me and my cameramen when we got lost earlier, gives us a breakdown of where we're at.
What have we achieved so far in the mission, and how much more enemy do we think there is to encounter?
So as you mentioned, they pushed round, they secured the rear, and they pushed out two up. So one of the platoons to the western side, the other platoon to the eastern side of the tactical landing zone. They then moved up together under command of the OC, and they come under contact and destroyed and cleared enemy positions en route on both sides. They're now about 60% clear, so we've got another 40% to push through. Unknown how much enemy is in depth. They'll push up drones, try and get eyes on, but they'll just continue that river.
Again, we don't know anything about what's happening on the eastern side, but it doesn't seem as though there are any members of the platoon on the western side of it have had any casualties yet, right?
I've not heard any casualties so far. Normally that'll get pushed back to the platoon sergeant, and then obviously through the company sergeant major at the back, he will then liaise about getting a hold of those casualties on the way. Normally leave kind of like markers on an axis, leave the casualties there. The company sergeant major will collect them on the way through.
Right, okay. From the perspective of like a Swedish conscript who is encountering this force, what do you think is going through their head? Like, how would they be approaching this?
Obviously it depends on their training and their ability and what they've done, but obviously it's quite a force coming towards you sort of thing. They've got not the capabilities that we've got, they haven't got the eyes that we've got, they haven't got the drones, so they're massively underweight and in an advantage. So a lot, as you probably heard earlier from the platoon commander's brief, is a lot of them will flee under contact.
Oh, right, okay.
Because the force is overwhelming. They may be repelling and slowing down, but to hold the ground is probably quite
okay, got it. And once the whole TLZ's been taken, what is the process then? Do they have to kind of assume some kind of defensive position? What happens after that?
Yeah, from there it's reconcentrating under the company sergeant major, getting the casualties out, looking after casualties, and then rebombing ammunition, and then providing that protection all round the tactical landing zone to then enable it secure to enable aircraft to come in and land.
When dawn finally broke and the morning light illuminated the TLZ, the battlefield was still. The Paras defeated every enemy without suffering a single casualty. With the TLZ clear, the US Marines come into land, capping off a job well done for the Paras. This whole experience may have been a rehearsal, but the capabilities on display by the Paras and their NATO allies are very much the real deal. At a time when Europe's eastern flank is mired in war, it's encouraging to see the Alliance's forces are preparing to meet any threat. And if the dark day comes when NATO's troops are forced to deploy to the front lines for real, it's men like these who will be leading the way.